Justin's coming the key.
So excited, I wonder why.
Drop in knowledge on me, FUNKe Study.
High Score Girl is a 3D anime, and if you've ever watched one of those, then you know, yikes. Which is why I was surprised to find that this one actually pulled it off pretty competently. The show centers around Haruto and Ono, and some other characters, but we'll get to that later. All of them are super into arcade games. And while most shows would come off as cheap because of this animation, here it actually provides a pretty cool contrast between the gameplay part of it and the animation part of it. By presenting it in a 3D space, those arcade machines seem almost more physically tangible. There's a divergence between world and game, and it adds a level of authenticity to this show. The design is also very competent. Most still shots genuinely look 2D. The 3D is most noticeable when things are in motion, but because the show is about video games, they spend a lot of time stationary in front of arcade machines. The main character Haro is hyper-focused on getting better at these games. Street Fighter 2 becomes such an integral part of his personality that sprites from the game start manifesting themselves as representation of his consciousness. What this means is the 2D game starts bleeding into his 3D reality. This tells us a lot about who the main character is and how he thinks. He has a borderline addictive personality disorder, but instead of being a one-note character, they actually use this to develop him, especially later on in the show. Additionally, the video game part of this show isn't just for marketing. It displays an impressive amount of knowledge on the source material. With constant references to shit like guile turtling, the show conveys that these kids aren't just playing the game, they're actually really going at it. Plenty of time is spent developing these characters and their rivalries within the game, both in tournament play and in friendly 1v1s. These games also serve as a bonding mechanisms for the characters to grow closer. These stakes and tension go a long way for the story, which is important to me because a lot of the show is comprised of romance comedy, something I'm not really that into, so giving it this secondary theme of competitive arcade machines, it really helps to even out the story. Something I found interesting was the show takes place in the early 90s but features a couple of time skips, and as new games come out over the years, graphics and gameplay keep evolving. So at a certain point in the show, the games that they're playing almost seem more realistic than their real world, and I just thought that was like really weird. Even Mortal Kombat exists in this universe with the hyper-realistic humans. This makes me wonder if real life is this universe's version of anime, but that sounds so fucking weird. Now, for all of the good things I've said about this show, there are some drawbacks from the 3D animation. A lot of the posing feels pretty weak sometimes, so you don't feel much energy behind every movement. This would usually be a bigger complaint, but they spend so much time in front of an arcade machine that it really isn't too much of a problem. The areas they most suffer from this is when they drag their characters away from this environment. Like, they try to introduce some slapstick comedy every here and there, but it never really leaves an impression. I'm also okay with the romance parts of this, but sometimes it can feel a little too harem for my taste. Haruto's a fucking dick. He's the kind of guy that would wear a Walmart gamer shirt. Hidaka, you can do so much better than that! Right now, only season 1 is out. I believe 3 more OVAs are coming out, so the story isn't over yet. But right now, just based off season 1, I think I'd give it a 7.5. It's alright, I definitely don't regret watching it. There's a lot of characters that I find insufferable in this show. Nearly every secondary character in this show is just a gag character there to try and make you laugh, but then they use the same character for the same gags 3 more times. The show falls under comedy and it definitely tries to be one, but I would not call it its strong suit. Rather, I would say its strong suit is telling a compelling little sweet love story in a way that I haven't seen it done before. It does justice to the video game part of the show, and while it definitely has its flaws, I think I'd still recommend this. That concludes the first episode of FUNKe Study Revived. Thank you for watching, and I promise it won't all be anime. There will be video games. Just trust me. And I don't want to get demonetized again, so I'm gonna sing my intros now instead. It's a bitch that I can't use songs at the end, but I would much rather pay my rent. So please don't strike. Please don't strike. I promise you that I'm playing this live. I need money to survive. Yeah.